Hi, everyone. Welcome to Waste 360's Nothing Wasted podcast. On every episode, we invite the most interesting people in waste, recycling, and organics to sit down with us and chat candidly about their thoughts, their work, this unique industry, and so much more. So thanks for listening and enjoy this episode. Hi, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying our series of Waste Expo Together Online sessions that we've reimagined into podcasts. They've been really great, and I hope you have enjoyed them as much as we have. This next one is the role of technology for independent haulers. And this one really digs into, do you need the types of technology that the larger companies do? What will give you an advantage? What don't you need? And just you'll be amazed at the takeaways that you'll gain from this. So please enjoy and happy holidays.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. It's been a challenging year for everyone, and I trust everyone's staying safe. My name is David Ishii, and I'm the head of business development for AMCS. I want to first welcome our panel, as well as our audience, to today's session. Today, thank you for joining us. The topic of our discussion today is going to be focused on the role of technology, specifically within the independent hauler community. Technology is playing a key role in both our personal and professional lives these days, and specifically within our industry, technology continues to evolve and change the way that we work. So what's the impact of the changing face of technology on the independent hauler community? Today, we're going to dig deeper into that question and discuss technology from the perspective of our panel members, which I'll have the pleasure of introducing. I'm going to start with Alex. Alex Carrasquillo is joining us from All Waste Incorporated, based out of Hartford, Connecticut. And Alex has been with All Waste since 2007. Alex currently serves as the Fleet Technology Manager. Alex has significant experience within the fleet technology application sector, as well as the CNG technology space. His experience comes from overseeing the implementation of multiple CNG fueling stations, as well as over 50 CNG vehicles. He's an expert when it comes to everything on board the truck. This is ranging from tablets integrated with onboard scale systems, vehicle monitoring and diagnostic software, as well as multiple safety warning systems. So Alex will serve as a liaison throughout his company, working with all cross-functional departments requiring technology day to day. Alex, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, David.
Next, I'd like to introduce Matt Coulter. Matt joins us from PDA area companies based out of Peoria, Illinois. Matt is the Vice President of Sales and Strategic Operations for PDC. Matt has worked for PDC for over 17 years, and as a VP, he's heavily involved in setting the long-term strategic vision and planning for the organization. Matt plays an instrumental role in driving improvement and efficiency within his company. Outside of work and his leadership position in PDC, Matt's very active in his community. Matt sits as a board member of the St. Francis Foundation, as well as an active leader in the United Way Business Services campaign. Matt has served the industry as past chairman of the Independent Waste Haulers Association. So you can see from Matt's professional and volunteer commitments, they are among his top priorities. I don't know if you can see in the background there, I think Matt will tell you his most valuable role is as a leader and devoted family man to his wife and 6 children. Matt, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it, David.
Next, I'm going to move over to Kevin Atkinson. Kevin joins us from Houston, Texas. Kevin is the proud owner and president of Texas Pride Disposal. Kevin's roots go way back in the industry, back to his childhood. Kevin, I guess you spent your days chasing garbage trucks up and down the street. Is that right?
That is correct. I was
All
that.
Right. So that's where the waste industry first set your hook into you. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. That's it.
All right. As Kevin got older, he never completely outgrew his fascination and passion for the waste industry. He earned his way through college working on the back of a garbage truck for Waste Corporation of America, where he was brought in as a trainee after completing school. Kevin, you must have quickly accelerated in your role. In 2013, Kevin left WCA and co-founded Texas Pride Disposal. What started as a 2-truck operation has grown into the premier independent solid waste collection company in the greater Houston area. Kevin's company proudly serves over 230,000 customers. Kevin, a pleasure to have you.
Likewise, appreciate it.
And Bill, you know I'm going to save the best for last, right?
We'll see.
Bill White comes to us from Jefferson, Indiana. Bill's the president and owner of Estes Waste Solutions. Bill has worked and served the banking industry for over 30 years. At the young age of 33, Bill founded his own bank holding company, which he later sold, and subsequently became the CEO of another financial institution. Bill is currently a board member and market president of the Commerce Bank in Clarksville, Indiana. Bill, I know you and your family have served the waste and environmental industry for many years. Your latest venture, Estes Waste Solution, serves Louisville, Kentucky market as well as the Southern Indiana market. And I know your company has grown exponentially since it was first started in 2014. You know, Bill, you come to us highly qualified. Your MBA from Bellarmine University after completing an undergraduate degree from Eastern Kentucky University, where you were recognized as a distinguished alumni in 2007. Appreciate having you, Bill.
Glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
All right, good. So based on the qualifications that I just presented during our introductions here, I'm pretty confident that we have the right people in place for this discussion. I wanted to kick it off, and the first question that I have is going to go out to all of our panel members here. Our topic is technology. This is a very broad topic here, so I'd like to narrow things down. I'm wondering if you could tell us about the functional areas in your business where technology is most utilized, or on the other side of things, conversely, where technology may be underutilized. And if you could just speak in general terms of the functional groups such as marketing, sales, operations, finance, and accounting. Bill, we left off with you. Why don't you start off and we'll go clockwise from there.
Sure. Thanks, David. I will tell you that Estes Waste has embraced technology since we re-entered the business back in 2014. And so our short answer is technology. We use technology in all areas of our business, but I would say it has the biggest effect in terms of our operational areas and more recently, even in our service department, where we have invested a lot of money in technology that allows us to do any and all types of monitoring and measuring of our guys and our fleet when they're out on the road. And for us, that's a game changer. We knew from prior experience that not having adequate technology resources available, or maybe to say it a different way, not embracing the technology that was available, made our jobs more difficult. And often, as one of the smaller players in our area, if you're not using technology to make you the most efficient you can be, it's really hard to compete with the largest in the industry. And in our case, we have Waste Management, Republic Services, Rumpke, and others in our market that are always formidable competitors. And we have to realize that we're competing with their technology as well. And David, your company has been a big boost to us in the last 3 years, especially.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, Bill. Kevin, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, absolutely. For us, it's been interesting going from the 2-truck operation that we started as when we acquired the assets of the small company that we formed Texas Pride Disposal with. Our billing system was a homemade Microsoft Access-based program. So kids, pull out your Encarta and look that up. It's the very first thing we did was look for a back office software solution. We did, truthfully, almost 2 years of homework on that, getting that in place. And then with our growth, especially over the last few years, our exponential growth, we didn't necessarily embrace the full capacity of that system to the degree that we probably could have been and should have been. And so, as of now, we're really trying to dive back into maximizing the use of those systems. the bigger we've gotten, the more people we've added, you realize the value that those systems have in keeping everybody connected and on the same page. Moving from a route map that's stuffed in a drawer or in a Microsoft Word document to all being in that one system is crucial, especially the bigger you get. The other side of that, we've had GPS on our trucks for the last 4 or 5 years. We're in the process of installing exterior cameras on all of our trucks right now. It definitely can be a barrier, especially as a smaller business, but the bigger the more we've grown, you realize that from both a customer service standpoint as well as a labor standpoint, whether it's checking on a customer that said they were missed and being able to see that they just didn't have their trash out on time, or checking bad behaviors from a safety perspective, all those things add up to a better experience for both our staff and more importantly the customer.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Alex, I'll let you add to that.
Yeah, so we also use technology in pretty much all the departments here at All Waste. Our dispatchers, for instance, use GPS monitoring systems, probably similar to what Kevin was saying. We use those GPS monitoring systems just to track the trucks on the route, see where they are and how their day is going. We use, in our safety department, we're always looking for new tech to keep the truck and drivers safer on the road. We use heavily dash cams, backup cameras. We use preview sensors for just backing up and preventing accidents that way. We use, in our marketing department, we're using drone footage just to record our trucks in action, and we post that on our social media platforms, and a lot of customers actually will comment on it, and they like those videos and they want to see more. So the other big one that we really use technology is in my specialty is in the maintenance department. We have a lot of new tools and new equipment like truck lifts that make the job done more efficiently and safer for the technicians' bodies, and it's just safer all around. We use laptops for check engine light diagnostics that a couple years ago we didn't have, and we're able to perform a lot more work in-house, keeping the trucks on the road. We have a lot of invested in our scale systems on the front loaders, which helps sales make deals and sell more to get more business. So we're always utilizing all the technology, and these are all things that in the maintenance shop, as far as that goes, we haven't had those 10 years ago. This is all stuff that's new, and it's still going to keep going.
Okay, great. Matt?
Yeah, I think where I'm going to focus is more on the software side and things we're doing on the accounting side. I think we all know, because we're all operationally driven, we all have made investments on the operational side with routing software, onboard cameras, you name it. But for us, I think investments we made prior to the effects of what COVID's had on our industry from a back office perspective. We did some online ordering of roll-off containers, some software we added. Actually, it was late last year without even knowing that this was going to happen. And one of the effects of the virus has been, temporary roll-off sales has been one of the hot spots and one of the growing parts probably throughout the country, because people have been at home and doing projects while they're at home. And then the other thing is we upgraded some purchasing software that allowed us to automate and reduce some of the workflow that we have with staffing issues at our own company, and try to get a streamline of, we've got about 19 different offices, and once you had bills going to those individual offices, it became a mess, and you lose a lot of traction. And so we've done some financial purchasing software that's made us a little bit more efficient, been able to do work remotely a lot more often. And then let's be honest, I think all of us have changed in the industry with using Microsoft Teams and Zoom and other ways of meeting with our customers and doing stuff more effectively that we've learned through this pandemic. So we're also learning as we go.
Okay, that's great. So it's really interesting to hear some of the common answers, which is what I would expect. Most of the companies have adopted a back office system, but it was really interesting to hear some of the other functional groups where technology is also taking a role. What I really heard was technology seems to focus on revenue, customer service, and operations and safety. Is that a safe assumption?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Kevin, what I'm really curious about is that there's other groups like marketing and sales that I didn't really hear too much about, and I'm curious from your perspective, why is that? What's the real decision-making process in saying that these technology dollars are going to go to this specific functional group and leave another specific functional group out of the equation?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. I think for every business, that's probably a decision that the business themselves make internally. From our standpoint, obviously safety is probably one that is core to every business. That drives a lot of these decisions. But from our standpoint, also, the customer experience, trying to facilitate that experience to simplify. A perfect example right now is we've got a hurricane that's going to be blowing through here in 12 hours, and we've got messages up on Facebook, we've got messages up on our web page. We were able to do a blast through our billing software for the people that are subscribed to it, letting them know, this is what our tentative schedule is. This is what to expect. Changes we posted to our website, to our Facebook page. So from our standpoint, safety is obviously the number one piece of that puzzle, but the customer experience, and truly what that really translates to as well is again the ease of use on the backside. My staff that's working directly with our customers, whether that be the guys in those trucks driving by or my customer service staff, that customer experience right there is a big factor that drives our decisions in what types of technology to implement.
Understand. All right. I appreciate that. It all goes back to the customer at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
Matt, I'm just going to you'll probably have some cross answers here, but I was just going to probe you a little bit. I was not going to ask you for any trade secrets or anything, but based on your history in the industry, I was wondering if you could maybe give some examples of how technology has really, really, really improved the business, or in your estimation, given you a little bit of a competitive edge in the marketplace that you serve.
Sure. For us, and we're a little bit different than most independents. We have 3 solid waste landfills, so we're able to keep landfill costs somewhat controlled, even though that can be a different business dynamic as well. But technology has been important for us in our marketplace to be able to remain competitive with the national players. And if we didn't have automated trucks today, and one of the big investments we did back in 2012, and Alex has the background on it, is compressed natural gas vehicles. So for us in Central Illinois, we went to compressed natural gas because we knew it was a thing that could help us with city contracts and also with big industrial accounts to be able to compete a little bit better with those national players. And that gave us a competitive advantage when diesel fuel pricing was, for the most part, in the recent 2000s, not with the current pandemic, but you're talking $3.50 to $4 a gallon diesel price. Mm-hmm. So with CNG, that gave us a big cost advantage versus those national players when we did a long-term contract and we had fixed costs with fuel, which they did not. They had variable. So that was probably the biggest technological win that we've done recently in the marketplace. And now recently, the investment of onboard computers so that we can keep track, keep our drivers safe, and make sure that we're doing things as efficiently as we can out on the street.
I was just curious, when you mentioned that competitive advantage, is that a long-lived competitive advantage, or have they caught up to you?
No, they have not. And Central Illinois is more of a rural marketplace. It's not the big city marketplace that you would see in Chicago or Houston for that fact. So they have stations up in those big markets, but there is not another compressed natural gas station within about a 100-mile radius from us. So it truly gives us the advantage in the local marketplace.
Okay, very good. Kevin, I'm wondering if you can share any examples of the same.
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually have two cities starting in the next, really the next 30 days. We start the city of Katy next week, and we start the city of Alvin the October 1st. And similarly in both of our, the bid process, the interview process with both those cities, one thing that really caught both cities' attention was the exterior cameras that we're putting on our trucks. Both are coming from situations that had automated service being provided. And not being able to understand why residents would call constantly for missed services, whether it be in that cart or a resident, leaving a bag next to the cart, not understanding the process. And so being able to provide, on-demand data for residents that call and say, hey, my trash was missed. We can pull that video clip up, have it up in 30 seconds, email that clip to the city or to the customer. That was a big driving factor that really helped us win those two city contracts. The irony is we're running through there with manual service moving forward, which some would argue that's a step away from the technology, but those cameras on those trucks were a big driver in, I think, winning both of those city contracts for us.
No, definitely understood. What I'm really curious about is how would you have done it without technology?
That's a good question. Unless we've got a supervisor following every truck in those cities, it's I don't think we would have been in a position to win those contracts. I think the big guys, Waste Connections and Republic and Waste Management, all bid on these contracts, and they all have their obviously their breadth of technology at their fingertips. So the packages they can put in front of any city in the country, really, compared to a small independent at the end of the day, they can make things look real pretty very easily. And so I do think that, without those cameras, I think it would have been I don't think, whether it's one or both of them, we may not be in the same position we are right now.
Yeah, very good. Alex, I'd like to turn to you and bring you into the fold here. Alex, it's been my experience that quite often when implementing technology that may be designed for a specific purpose, the introduction of said technology sometimes has a ripple effect on other parts of the business. So I was curious, based on your experience, if you might be able to talk to any situations where implementing technology for a specific purpose may have had either unexpected benefits or conversely unexpected repercussions on other parts of the business.
Yeah, so when we got the dash cams that record the driver and record out front of the truck, we originally bought those just strictly to train the drivers, coach them better, improve the mistakes they were making on the road. There was one incident a while ago where we were cut off in an accident, and the driver was involved in a rollover crash. We were able to take that video and prove that we weren't at fault, and that possibly saved us a $150,000 claim. So that showed like an immediate return investment on the dash cam purchase. It was a big purchase to make, and that right there saved us a lot. Another thing that to touch on what Kevin was saying, if it's a misstop where the customer might call and say you missed my can or something, we can show the footage saying the can wasn't out or there was a car block there. We've gotten we're able to defend our drivers now when someone calls in and says, oh, you damaged my boat or my car that was on my property, and we can go back to the camera, find that boat had that scratch on it before we even got there. And a lot of times the customer will back down at that point or not even want to see the video because they know they're not really truthful on it. So it's helped us a lot to defend the drivers and save us in case of accidents. But when we first bought it, it was mostly just trainer, coaching them and have them drive better on the road. That was the first one. Another example is when we got Cummins natural gas trucks. We got the Cummins software to work on the check engine lights. So we got that software just to work on the check engine lights and troubleshoot and try to fix the trucks in-house. That led us to working with the dealers more, working with the manufacturer more, asking questions. They started offering us training. We got online courses that all the technicians can use in the shop. And that eventually led us to working even closer with Cummins and testing some of their products out. So they would have new products that aren't even out yet. We're able to test for them, Right now we have a test engine in one of our roll-offs. They're trying to improve the exhaust system on it, so we're going to run that for a good year or so, and then they'll put our original engine back in, and we got to use their equipment free for a year. And when we bring a truck to their shop, we have a partnership with them now where they really take care of us, and we do what we can to help them. So those are some good benefits that we weren't really expecting to gain when we originally bought the technology.
Alex, those are great examples of how implementing technology just has a ripple effect through the business. Bill, I was wondering if you could share any examples of yours.
Sure, I would echo what Alex said on the service software. We recently invested in the same thing for our service department, and it's been amazing. Not only how it helped us become a lot more efficient, but it reduced our service costs because we weren't having, in some cases, to pay other people to come in and do things that we just didn't have the capacity to assess on our own. So that was a big financial benefit. For us, I think one of the two things that come to mind when I think about benefits of technology that we didn't anticipate. One is GPS software. We've also been running that for about 6 years. And we found that having the ability to pull up on our phones or our computers, our trucks at any given time, or respond again when someone would call and complain about a driver maybe driving erratically or doing something crazy, it served two purposes. Number one, to be able to respond and defend our drivers when maybe they weren't, and our data showed that. Or two, to make our drivers aware of how serious we took safety and safety issues. So for us, that was big. David, the second thing was when we switched to trucks from our prior vendor and we implemented the tablet software for routing, that was a big game changer for us. The ability to just put together a lot more efficient routes, to manage our time. We expected to get more efficient routes, but what we didn't necessarily anticipate was the financial benefit on the backside just by embracing that. And as I'm sure all of the others on the panel have experienced, whenever you bring in new technology or new systems into our industry, there's often pushback, whether it's from drivers or service techs or other co-owners of the business. And once they saw the benefit, it's amazing how now it's just become second nature. But initially, there was a whole lot of pushback.
No, that makes sense. When I listen to this, the summary of, a picture tells 1,000 words here is when a customer calls and says your driver didn't pick me up in the morning, and you're able to turn around and show them proof with a picture that has a lat and long and a timestamp on it. It really puts things in perspective here of how technology has really changed the business.
Hey, David, especially when they're city council members. I think we've all gone through that.
Yes, exactly. So having that proof of service and having, like you say, to defend yourself is critical.
David, we've used it. We've also used it. I forgot to mention on overloads on the front load side of our business. Our ability to snap a picture, and our drivers do it regularly, so we know the frequent offenders, and they'll argue all day long until we send them a picture, and then they just throw up their hands and say, "Okay, you got me."
So they have to accept it, and then they also have to accept the extra charge that's going to come on the invoice. Isn't that right, Bill?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Bill, while I have you, I think that we'll all agree that most companies these days have adopted, technology in some shape or form. This is evident just from our discussions here, but I'm wondering if you could maybe speak to any part of the business or a specific technological solution that is just out of the reach, for some of the independent haulers. Anything that you've come across, maybe technological hurdles where either due to size or complexity that it's just something that it's not consumable by companies of our size.
Sure. I think for my business, and we're, again, based on listening to everyone else, I'm sure we're the smallest on the panel. One of the things I've had a great interest in for years, and it's just been cost prohibitive, is the tracking devices for roll-off boxes. I know that we have the ability with tablets to maybe do some of that, but sometimes our guys aren't as good with dropping pins every time they move a box, and inventory of those inevitably is a nightmare. For most of the small independents I talk to, they struggle with that. It's easier maybe with resi cans or front load cans, but on the roll-off side, it is not unusual for most haulers to occasionally get a call from someone and say something along the lines of, hey, I've had this box here for a couple months. Are you guys going to move it? And you hear that and you think, what do you mean we've had a box there for a couple of months? The ability to quickly go and check that would be huge. I know it's out there, but each time I've looked into it for the past 3 years, especially, it just seems like it's a little beyond reasonable cost for most independents.
Interesting. So you just gave us an example of technology that is there to serve a specific problem, but you're hesitant because you're not seeing the value or the potential return on investment from it.
Yeah.
Kevin, I'm wondering if you could add to that.
Yeah, ironically, it's one of those things that we with the city we start in October, we start roll-off services as well. And as an independent, you put a residential trash card out and you got a deposit against it. You put a front load container out at somebody's business. You usually can take care of that as well. But you're putting out a $3,000-$4,000 asset with a roll-off box. It's a much different game than a $50 trash can or a $400 dumpster. So we've looked into those exact same solutions, and again, it's one of those things that trying to find a solution that has a battery that'll last for an extended period or has a signal that can read through trying to hide it into a spot in the roll-off box. It's a challenge that we've looked at as well. Still looking for a solution, trying to work with our GPS group on a solution for it, as well as our container manufacturer. But there's a market that you want to talk about, instead of running a garbage business, run a roll-off tracking business. We might all be in the wrong line of work right here.
Hey, listen, Kevin, I'm going to make a note of that one, okay?
That's good.
Kevin, while I have you here, obviously our discussion is focused on the independent hauler. And just by our discussions here, we see plenty of examples of industry companies that have started off small like yours and scaled to a fairly significant size. Now, I come from this industry as well, and I've often wondered if technology needs of companies differs based on the size and the scale of the company, or is it basically technology can fit any size company? So, Matt, I'm just going to turn it to you to see, in your opinion, are there specific unique needs as an independent hauler that might differ, say, from a large publicly traded company?
Well, I don't think it will surprise you that, and I think Kevin said it earlier, but most independent companies, and especially ones we acquire, typically do not have software that is even to our standards. I've even made one acquisition in the early 2000s that their customer list was in a spiral notebook, and that's just not the way we can operate today. So our needs are, I think, very similar today to the national companies, just because we need that quick access to data, and we need to be able to have very similar systems to be able to compete and lower our cost structures with them. So I think you're going to continue. Our company, I feel like we've been behind the times for a large independent. So we're going to keep pushing ways to have technology help us get more efficient throughout every part of our business. And that's tough to do when it comes from and I'm sure some of you understand this, but we're a fourth generation family business that, 10, 15 years ago, we didn't even have everybody on the same operating system. So we're still gaining that knowledge of technology, but it's becoming more and more important on a daily basis for us.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Kevin, you want to chime in?
Yeah, absolutely. I think Matt kind of nailed that. We all have similar needs. I think the challenge is, and we went through it. I mean, I can personally attest to it. The fear of the capital that can sometimes be required. That you look at the cost to implement a GPS system or a back office software system, and you're talking typically, even for a small company, a 5-figure commitment there. And when you're looking at, especially in growth mode, money that could be spent on trucks or containers or something besides a solution like that, think you have blinders on it sometimes to the fact that those tools, while not necessarily generating revenue, can save you a lot of money in the long term, whether it be additional people in the office answering phones or providing customer service. It could be an additional truck that you can postpone putting out there because the routing portion of that can save for you. So I think there's always an underlying fear of, we're too small to implement something like this. We're too, we don't need this. Our system of having it in our notebook or having it in our Word document works just fine. But at the end of the day, I think people, once you start utilizing it and you realize the benefits of it, it's just, you go back and looking backwards 2020, but it's something that I wish we did a pretty good job of implementing it, but I wish we had really just committed to it 110% out of the gate and ran with it. Because again, we're doing a lot of cleanup even right now. And it just feels like something that you're always kind of chasing your tail once you get behind on it, but it does have tremendous benefits. And again, I think that whether it's a 5-truck operation or a 5,000 truck operation, those benefits are there to be had.
Is that your experience as well, Bill?
I would say it is, but I'm gonna change gears for a second and put on my banker hat and share that I've been in community banking for 32 years, and as such, I've always competed with the largest players in the industry. And one of the things I learned about 30 years ago was in order to compete with the big guys, you had to be able to move quickly, and the only way we could do that was to embrace technology. And so my experience in banking, running a small bank, even though they're polar opposite industries, one is dressed like me and one's a little like my guys today that would be in their safety gear, the issues are the same. As the independents of the waste industry, we have to compete the same way the big guys do, and they have much more resources and access to capital than any of us will ever have. And so the only way we can compete, in my opinion, and I'm echoing what the other guy said, is embracing technology and overcoming that natural tendency amongst most mom and pop owners, which is to say, no, we can't afford that. I would argue that in many cases you can't afford not to, because continuing to do it the old way in a spiral bound notebook without a common connected system, you may think it's helping you, but it's really not, because you're missing the ability to capture data and respond quickly to it. And those companies that don't do that, again, I see it daily in my banking life, really struggle against those who embrace technology and move quickly. Again, as small independents, we have the ability to move much faster than the largest players in the industry. And if we'll do that, that's our competitive advantage. For them to do something to make a system-wide change is like moving a battleship. For us, it's like moving a jet ski. We just get on and go.
Sage advice from a banker, Bill. I appreciate that. Cash
and trash.
Exactly. I was doing a little bit of reading just before we started here, and there's an article that kind of jumped out at me. It's really not specific to the waste industry or even technology projects, but it's more associated with project management. And the statistic that I read was staggering. It said over 70% of organizations have suffered at least one project failure in the past 12 months. And I'm just thinking, as we discuss here, it's not my intention to dig into any details of projects that may have gone sideways here, but Alex or Matt, I was wondering if you could maybe speak to that statistic. Does it resonate with your experience in implementing projects? Have you ever had something go bad, or something that you tried to implement where it just didn't give you the expected results?
Hey, Alex, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll take it. So with technology, it's always changing, it's always improving. There's always a trial and error stage when you first started getting into it. Here at Always, we went through a long course of trying to get the scale system on our front loaders to find one that actually worked and we liked. We've tried multiple scales, and this takes time and investment to put on our current fleet. Within a couple of weeks or months, you find out that the scales just aren't working right. They're not working for what you want. Now you got to rip everything back off that you just invested in. We finally found a good scale that we liked and we're continuing to work with and install on our trucks. But there's always a trial and error stage where you find one, it doesn't work, you got to be ready to move on from it. You don't have to settle with it. You don't have to just say, well, this is the best we can get. It's always improving. There's a scale company out right now that next year there might be one even bigger and better. So don't ever think you have to settle for it or just be okay with it. And another one that I would say, it's not really the technology is not as successful. It's more of like a drawback or like an inconvenience for mostly in the maintenance shop was the safety that we put on our trucks. Well, we're very strict on driver accountability, and we load the trucks up with safety devices, the cameras, dash cams, sensors, backup beepers, all these alarms. If we put so much technology into it that if one doesn't work, we tell the driver, do not take that truck out. So now we have downtime on a truck. We send them with a spare. We're lucky to have spares, but we do have technicians pretty much around the clock here on site. So they'll have to stay late at night to repair a cable, repair a camera, repair a backup alarm, or we have guys early in the morning that will have to repair these systems before that truck even leaves our yard. So it's kind of an inconvenience, not really unsuccessful. It's just we didn't really think that far ahead that, wow, we got to down a truck because of the cameras not working. But these days we have to now.
So I would just, sorry, Matt, I was just going to say those are expensive and frustrating lessons learned. Is that safe to say, Alex?
Yeah, definitely, because it's a lot of time and investment. These trucks are not small cars. It's a lot of work to get these things running.
So David, I think you asked this question just to like really get me upset and like get me to remember a bad situation that happened years ago for us.
Listen, Matt, that wasn't my intention, but I'm listening.
I mean, when I saw this one, I was like, somebody's really trying to get back at me. So we made the decision. I'm going to have the vendor remain nameless, but years ago we made the decision to do onboard computing, and it was before the technology was really up to the standards. You know, technology changes very quickly, and it was nowhere near the standards it is today. It was a wired system. We made the decision and it was a corporate decision. So there were two things that happened. One is that the company and the person that represented the equipment and knew the equipment very well left that company about 2 months after we made the decision to move forward. And after that happened, and really he was kind of the guru behind everything, the deployment and the installation and everything failed. The entire project really failed once that employee left. So that was one part of the problem. And then the second part of the problem is we did not have the buy-in from our drivers. And that might sound a little crazy, but we really didn't talk to them much about it. And it was one of our local Teamsters organizations. And it really became it was not a very good rollout with them either. And they were very much against. They thought we were spying on them and all this other stuff. So our culture, our driver culture and our employee culture was not ready for that. Even though we thought we were from a corporate standpoint, our culture for the drivers who do the work every day, they were not ready. And we did not deploy it good with them either. So the project was an epic fail. And thank you for bringing up that bad memory.
Listen, I don't want to bring up bad memories here, but those are perfect examples. Listen, it might not have been the technology that failed. You just think about some of these projects. There's people, there's culture, there's motivation. You know, you get some people that has pushback, and the project is destined to fail. So that might speak to the high percentage of statistic that I quoted there. You know, I was thinking about COVID here, and one of the challenges that I often hear from business owners is how they handle the shortage of drivers or the inability to retain drivers. You know, I'm up in Canada, but when I drive past waste companies, I often see that sign, drivers wanted. And I was just wondering if technology could potentially play a role in attracting drivers or even retaining drivers. And Alex, I'd like to hear your thoughts.
Most of this stuff for me is in the maintenance department. The drivers, we do try to take care of the best we can with the safety features that we give them. all the technology. Like our safety department will find tools to help them load cans better and safer and things of that nature, just to keep everything smooth. But as far as like the role of technology, I don't see it as a huge role as it did maybe 10 plus years ago. A lot of companies back in the day had a hard time probably implementing new technologies, and they were all in their early stages, so they probably weren't working the best. But now everything is improved. Every other company is on the same wave of implementing technology, and it's not really a deal breaker, I would say, to attract new technicians. And I'm talking about maintenance department so far.
Okay.
But it's not really a deal breaker, because you probably can't go to a shop right now and not find a shop laptop or a truck with a camera on it. It's the go-to these days. The technology that we do have and that we're continuing to improve on, it does allow us to offer more training for the guys when they come in. So we get a lot of guys fresh out of school, and some of these items are geared towards waste industry, like the CNG trucks. We have like the scales on the trucks and all these safety stuff that we put on it. Those aren't in a lot of other fields, so the high schools and the colleges don't have the resources to teach all that type of stuff. So we get the guys in here and we start training them and send them to school for CNG or tank inspections. We'll go to a scale class for repairing scales, and that's how we use the technology to try to attract them, but try to keep them here and give them everything they need to succeed here. That's mostly geared towards the maintenance department. The drivers, though, like I said, we do offer a lot of safety and tools for them to better do their job.
But if I'm stepping in a driver's shoes and I'm looking at two different companies that I'm going to work for, I think I'm going to gravitate to the one that's embraced technology, is more in tune. It just shows the commitment from the company. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, a lot of the new drivers coming in. A little while ago we used to have manual roll-offs, a handful of them. We actually had to just go to automatic because it's harder to find drivers that can drive both. It's easier just get the automatic. You get a driver in here and he can get in the truck and go. And we do hold the drivers to a strict safety. So if we get new drivers in, they probably will see that, and will be more attracted to this company.
Hey, David, if
Yes.
I could chime in on this subject, relative to the driver shortage that I know we all are feeling and experiencing, I happened to see an interview this weekend talking about how AI is going to affect CDL drivers in the future. I don't know if any of the others of you saw this, but it talked about a company in Tucson, Arizona called TuSimple, TU Simple, that has over $1 billion worth of semis loaded with AI that are driverless semi trucks today. And while it would be easy to say, well, that's great for over the road stuff, I think it's only a matter of time until someone figures out how to bring some of that technology and marry it up with the other pieces of ours. For example, imagine for a moment if all of the young kids today that are sitting home in their basements playing whatever game, Fortnite or something else, suddenly had the ability to drive the world's largest RC vehicle, and it's a front load truck. Yeah. And you had AI technology that let it drive itself, and someone that grew up with today's gaming industry could control the arms and things to open corrals, dump boxes, do that. I think if nothing else, as AI affects the over-the-road industry, it may open the door for more drivers for hours. Yeah. But I do believe it's only a matter of time until that technology evolves to change the game for us.
Hey, Bill, just hitting on that. I know with Caterpillar here locally, they're working with waste management right now. They have a couple pilots out there at a few of the landfills where they're operating the heavy equipment from an office in Arizona, Tucson, for instance. And they could be operating in a landfill in Ohio. They do have that technology. They are working on that right now. I have seen it in action at their proving grounds and how they do it. I mean, it's truly incredible. And you think about how that's going to impact our waste industry. We really do need that technology sooner rather than later, because we're all struggling with the same thing, with less people that want to do these jobs. So it's going to be it's difficult now, but it's even going to be harder in the next 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely.
I will say on that as well, especially as a predominantly residential company, the one question I always have on that, it's fun to watch it and see how it's progressing, but I'm going to need some help on my sales pitch going to a neighborhood and saying, hey, we're going to put this driverless truck in your neighborhood where these kids play in your street. So it's going to be interesting to see how truthfully, the safety piece of that really evolves. And, I'm rooting for it because I think, as everybody said, it'll definitely help the industry. But I think, especially out of the gate, I don't know if I want to be the first one to have one of those trucks running through one of my neighborhoods. So it's going to be interesting how it all plays out.
Yeah, fair enough. And Bill, you basically preempted one of my questions here. I was just going to talk about, if you had that elusive crystal ball in hand, what do you see as the future for technology, and what excites you most about the future of technology? So I think you just spoke to one point of potential automation, and even talked about a driverless garbage truck. Is there anything else out there that you see coming down the pipe?
I think for me and our business, I do think that the AI component is going to be a game changer, not just for waste. It's already affecting banking. Again, the industry I've been in for 32 years, it's changing whether we realize it or not. Alex and I both mentioned earlier software that we both have in our companies to allow our techs to be able to do things that previously we would have had to taken our trucks to a dealership to address. And so as technology continues to evolve and the pace of change in that industry is much more rapid today than it was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, it's going to continue to make our lives easier. But in the meantime, I think the industry is in what I'll call the tweener stage. We're in that ugly stage of preteen years where we've been around for a long time, but our industry is still controlled by a lot of old timers that all believe, well, that's not the way we do it in this industry. And you throw out technology, it's never going to work. I think of what Alex was saying with the safety stuff, and my son works for one of the largest companies in our industry, and he's always talking about their safety things and the things that they do. And some of the folks at our family business will grumble, we don't need to do that. Well, you know what? Actually, we do. And it's that evolution revolution. As the industry is evolving, there's always that component of old school and maybe those resistant to change that are revolting against it a little bit. And as you're evolving over here and you've got the revolters, when they bump, hopefully the evolutionary side wins and you get way better for it. But in the meantime, you have to go through the pain of change.
Okay, very good. Matt, I know we're bumping up on our time here, but I just value your opinion on this question as well, and then we'll wrap things up here, okay?
Yeah, for us, I think my biggest concern, we've got over 300 CDL drivers, and the pool is becoming less and less. And then when you compete with the national companies, they typically can pay more, they have better benefits. So we do need to work as an industry, not only on the technology side, but we also need to work from the grassroots level and try to focus on trade schools and try to get people interested still in this industry. It's a great industry. I think the other big trend that's happening is that you're seeing more female drivers. I know Republic just stated it in one of their press releases. I've talked to their people. That's a different way of a new person entering the workforce that we have not had before. So the waste industry, it is old school, Bill. You said it correct. I mean, I argued with my father this morning about our need to change our HR process and how we do hiring. We're a very reactive culture and industry. We always have been. And we have to be proactive in everything we do these days because we're not reaching the audience we need to reach. So, but I think for us, we're a landfill first company. We always have been, and we do a lot of collection. But we are looking at technologies we're looking at solar power, we're looking at wind power, we're looking at other technologies that complement our business and try to make us, as kind of that full environmental company that you can be. And, technologies, even on the recycling end, more automation, you name it. So we're trying to be lean and mean to compete for the next 4 generations, if we can, against those national guys and keep our family business going.
Well, I see that you have the team behind you to fill those boots, right?
That's right.
Listen, gentlemen, I wanted to say I really enjoyed spending time with you. I wanted to thank you for your time and sharing your valued perspectives here. To both our audience and panel members, I want to wish everyone's family a safe and good health, and cross fingers that we'll be face-to-face in Las Vegas next year. All right? I'm going to wrap things up, and I want to, again, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.